Uh-oh. That's not good. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Rebuild It. This week we continue on with the 68 Firebird, and we'll just start where we left off last time a couple weeks ago, which was on the differential. All right, so I've got my new gasket, which I'm going to put on here in a minute just to make sure everything lines up, and my cover and my new sealant, which this stuff is supposed to be the tops. It's a Permatex 551813, and it's a anaerobic gasket maker, so it doesn't really harden or anything until there's air is removed. So once it's bolted down, then it hardens. So I'm going to put it on both sides of this gasket, get that all set up, get it in there, and then torque it down. I'll have to check the settings, but I think it's 35 foot-pounds. Okay, so after a huge mess, spilling gear oil everywhere, I finally got it filled, and I don't see any leaks or anything. So I'm going to take it on a drive. This will be the first night drive I've ever had on it. So I'm going to jack it up, get it off these jack stands, and go on a spin. Driving the Firebird at night. Actually, the dash lights work. I don't know if you can see them on here. Even the high beam indicator works. That's what that red dot is. Check it out. Hopefully when we get back we won't have any leaking rear differential there. Alright, so I'm back from my night drive. And let's check our differential. Looky there. Still nice and dry. So that is one leak stopped, thankfully. If you guys remember, I'm working on these little side marker lights, and I think I showed you last time what the problem was. Well, I could not ever find any of these exactly like this, and I kind of wanted to keep it original in there. And so I found some big old backup lights like this, and they come with a same type system as the old-timey things, with this one wire that goes in there with a copper little button on it, and they fit perfectly inside these, and boom, right in there. So I'll clean that up, and we should have a working light again. Okay, so I've got my new little pieces installed on the little side marker lights, so I'm going to turn it on, and there we have it. Those are so cool. I love it. One thing I meant to mention the other day is we talked about how these front blinkers are in the center, because these 68s would have had a light right here on the side of this fender extension. And I mentioned that this could be a fender extension from a Camaro, but probably it's from a 67 Firebird, because the 67 Firebird had that like that too. So I guess whoever redid this car at one time, I don't know if there was an accident or what they did, but they put a 67 front on this thing. Guys, today I want to tackle trying to get the first part of this engine removal started. The first thing I want to do is to try to degrease it, just get it cleaned up while it's in the car, just get as much grease and stuff off of it as I can, so I'm not wandering around in grease the whole time. And there is so much of it. I mean, everything on here, it looks like it's just decades of, you know, dried up and just grease from leaking. Every possible thing on this car leaks. Looks like we might have some power steering leakage going on, or that could have been from the valve cover leaking down there. But that's one of the reasons I want to do it. I want to power wash everything and then drive it a little bit and see where I see more oil coming out. You know, it could be that stuff's all from the valve cover gaskets. I mean, look at all that caked on down in there. So I'll power wash everything I can, and I want to get some tape and cover up any holes going into the firewall there, so maybe I don't get any much water splashed up inside. I'll wrap a bag around the air cleaner, bag around the alternator, and get it outside and just let it fly. But it's 37 degrees out there, so I'm gonna have to be wrapped up and so I don't freeze to death. But let's get it started here. Well, that's about as good as I can get it. I've got it everywhere I could reach in with the wand on the pressure washer, and blew it all off of there. And I'll be really surprised if it starts now, because I mean, there's a million things that could have got water blown in it, like the distributor cap, or I could have got it in the starter, and starter might not crank, or who knows what all. But I'd like to start it up and drive it, and then when I come back, check and see if I see, when it's good and dry, see if I see where there's any more oil coming out. And that'll give me some hints as to where it's leaking when I pull the motor. The next thing I want to do, probably before I pull it, is hook a compression tester up into the spark plug holes and see what kind of compression it's got on it, because I don't want to, I mean, it seems like it runs really good, but if there's one cylinder or something that has really low compression, I want to know that before I start. And it's easier to check that while it's in the car than it is when it's on a stand. Well, here I am driving it into town to kind of get it dried off and ease back up. I really do love driving this thing. Too bad it's got such an annoying timing gear whine. I just can't stand that. The more I drive it, the worse I hate it. So, but it does shift nice, drive nice, and runs good. So I get all the leaks stopped and switch out that timing gear. I think I'll be happy with the mechanics of it. Okay, I'm back from my probably 10-mile or so drive. Everything's dried off, and I don't see any pouring oil, or I see some way back there. Looks like, I don't know, who knows what, transmission area back in there. I don't see any down here. That's anything that's wet. We'll know more when we start getting it all apart, but I'm gonna let it cool off, and then we'll get it in there and start draining the radiator and getting it torn apart. All right, so I'm about ready to move this thing into the shop now that it's all dry. And it's been sitting probably 20 minutes or so. Look, it's already got 3 big old blobs of oil underneath it. So it's gonna be interesting to see where all that's coming from when we get it out. So I'm gonna get it in there, and then we'll go get the engine hoist and get it put together. All right, so the Firebird's in the shop. Got my engine hoist put together and in here. And the first thing I'm going to do is find something clean to start catching all the antifreeze. And while that's draining, I'm going to try to mark these hood bolts so that I can get it back exactly like it was, so I don't have to try to align everything once we're done. And then try to get this hood off by myself. I don't have no one else here, so that's going to be fun. All right, so the hood is off, and that didn't kill me, but it was very heavy. And I've got the radiator drained and the lower hose off, finishing dripping out. So I'll go ahead and take this upper one off here and get that radiator out of the way. The antifreeze was pretty nasty, so I don't know what that means to you guys. I mean, it's almost like just a dirty water. Maybe it's mostly water and from the rusty block or something. I don't know, but it's pretty gross. All right, so I've got the radiator out, and now I'm going to go ahead and get that alternator off and probably the water pump. All that out of the way right up there will give me a whole bunch more room to get that thing pulled out. And then we'll see about getting the headers loosened up. I need to do a compression test, so whatever the easiest way to get to those spark plugs, get them out of the way where I can get my tester in there, the better. All right, there it is without the water pump. As you can see, we're starting to get lots of room in here, so that's a good thing. So I'm going to keep on tearing down into it, trying to get it down into where I can get the spark plugs out and get my little compression tester in there. But it almost needs a straight shot to get in there, so some of those are going to be really hard to get to with those headers on there. So I'll just keep going here. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, we're down to the point where we can see what this motor is. There is our code for the block, VO630ILM-E. So I will have to try to look that up and see exactly what that is. But telltale sign that this is not a Pontiac, other than the other things we've already mentioned, is some orange paint underneath the blue. So yeah, this is a Chevy small block. Okay, I've got spark plug number 1 out, and check this out. That is like the perfect gray, not running rich, not running lean, not burnt. I mean, really nice plug. So hopefully all of them are like that. And I think I can get the compression tester in that first one, so we'll see what it's showing here. So my compression tester is not working. I guess it's got, the O-ring is probably dried out that goes between it and the block, and so it's just leaking air out. So I'm going to have to go get one in town, and I'll come back and we'll try that one. All right, so now I've got our new compression tester hooked up, and hopefully it gives us a reading. So let's see what it does here. You got to make sure it goes several times over to make sure you got on the compression stroke, and it's showing 115 pounds. Let's see what the other ones do. That's not real high. Oh, by the way, I looked up the code on the engine block, and it is a 327, not a 350. So I need to look up what a compression would be for a 327. Okay, here's cylinder number 3. You know, the cylinders on these go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 20, 30, 40. 140 on that one. All right, here's number 5, and that was a killer to get that in there behind that header. Got up to 140. All right, here's number 1357. Last one in the left bank. Okay, we have 130. Okay, here we go with cylinder number 2. We're on the passenger side now. Okay, we've got 130. Okay, here's cylinder number 4. 125. All right, cylinder number 6. 128. All right, here we go with the last one, number 8. Uh-oh, that's not good. 60 pounds. Tighten it up, check it again, make sure. Well, that time it has 75. Still not good. Okay, so after the compression test is done, here's my totals. Cylinder 1, 115, cylinder 2, 130, 3, 140, 4, 125, 5, 140, 6, 128, 7, 130, and 8, 75. The things I've looked up said if you have around 120, you're good. So I'm really good on everything except for number 8. So I got to decide what I want to do when we get this pulled out. We probably should take that head off that side and check that cylinder to see if it's got like a worn ring or there's what's going on with it, because that's pretty low. I mean, it'd probably be okay. The engine doesn't smoke or anything. It sounds good, but we just need to see what's going on with number 8. For now, let's, I've got it all back together, all the plugs back in, and all the plugs look good. Number 8 would look a little oily, so that could be an issue. If the ring is bad in there, it's getting blow by and getting oil up in there. I want to start it up one last time, hear it run, and then we'll shut it off. And it might be a month or 2 before we get this thing started again. But I want to get underneath it, and after that, and start unhooking the shifter linkage and get the shifter out of there, and we'll start getting ready to pull this thing. All right, so I'm under the car here and have the shifter out. There's the hole through the floor. There's all the linkages. And so, I mean, just look at all the leaking going on here. And here's one reason. Look at this, where the tail shaft housing goes in. If I wiggle it, there's like slop in there, and that's a seal that's supposed to keep any fluid in. So I'm hoping there's even any fluid left in that transmission. But while I'm under here, the next thing to do is to disconnect the other end of the drive shaft, and then we'll just pull that out. And I've got some little special caps that you stick in there that keeps any fluid that is in there in, and which there might not be much. But then we'll go back up to the, well, I'll probably go ahead and unhook that other piece of exhaust right there. There's our header I had to unhook. So I'll probably unhook that one right there and then go back up top and start disconnecting stuff. All right, so I've got the drive shaft out. I've got both exhausts let down. I've got to plug in the tail shaft of the transmission there. And when I pulled the drive shaft out, nothing leaked out. So I'm sure it's super low of transmission or gear oil or whatever. Looks like I'm done under here until I'm ready to actually, I'll have to remove that brace going across there underneath the transmission probably, so I can put a jack under it and then get the pressure off of the transmission, get this brace out, and then let it down as I'm pulling the motor up. So I will have to do that. But for now, I'm tired of holding my neck up under here, and I'm going to go work on getting headers off. All right, so I've got all the both of the headers off, and that one came all the way out. The other side is so crammed in there that I cannot get it out till I get the engine loose and start lifting it up, and then I can maybe get it through there. But man, it's in there. And then I got to try to figure out how to get the clutch rod that goes up in there. I got to remember how to get that loose. So that's holding that there. I've already got the clutch pedal disconnected. Okay, I just got a couple other things left to do up here on the top before I go under and start working on transmission bolts again. I want to take the distributor cap off. I got to unhook these wires from the coil. So let's go ahead and get those off, and then we'll get underneath again. Okay, I'm about ready to pull this thing. I've got all the stuff underneath loosened up, and I've just got to take these two bolts out for the engine mounts. Got the carb fuel linkage unhooked. I think all the wires. I'm gonna take that other valve cover off, and then I got to try to figure out where I'm gonna mount my chains for the hoist. Okay, so I've got this thing all connected. Man, look how far that motor sits back in there. This hoist barely even reaches in there. A while ago I was hitting the chrome piece with the jack, but then I dropped the car down, so I've got a little bit more room now. I'm gonna put something in there so it doesn't scratch that up, but I'm ready to start cranking it up. I don't think anything else is connected. So let's see what happens here. Well, there it is, out of the car. Now I have to decide what to do with it. Do I fix all the leaks on this thing and replace the timing gear with the timing chain, paint it, make it a Chevy orange, do all that? I don't know what I would spend doing that. Or do I just say, forget it on this one because of that one cylinder that is got 75 pounds compression? Or it could be some little thing like a valve or something like that in that, so we could check all that. Or do I look for a Pontiac 350, what the car actually came with? That is the question. I'd rather have the Pontiac 350, of course, but I don't want to spend a ton of money on that, on a car that's nothing original on it. So the first thing I'll do tomorrow, because I'm whooped, this was an all-day job, remove that Muncie transmission, because we know we're keeping it. And actually, the first thing I want to do is take it outside and power wash it the rest of the way. Cover up all this stuff that we don't want to get wet, and finish cleaning it. And then we'll take the transmission off and the bell housing off and check the clutch and see what all, condition all that is in, and go from there. We'll have to save that for the next episode. So we want to take this time to sincerely, from the bottom of our hearts, wish you and your family a very, very Merry Christmas, and leave you with our verse of the week, which is Luke 2:11. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. We'll see you next week.
And always remember, don't retire it if you can rebuild it. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in and watching this week's episode of Rebuild It. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any awesome content. Have a good one.